from the
This is the title of this show has got to be Theater of the Obvious. Facebook has all your data, and billionaires cheat on their wives.
And
Theater of the Obvious.
And here's my tie-in: is Trump going to South America anytime soon? Because we're back to the legitimate Wall Street Journal headline: "Demand for American sperm is skyrocketing in Brazil."
I'm not
And
sure.
I love the tagline for this, though. This is the best tagline. Explosive growth. Explosive growth spurred by more wealthy single women and lesbian couples turning to U.S. donors.
Wow.
The advice provided on this podcast is general advice only. All statements made are considered by the participants to be accurate, but accuracy cannot be guaranteed. It has been prepared without taking into account your objectives, financial situations, or needs. All participants in this podcast, including guests, may have a financial interest in any or all of the products or services mentioned. Before acting on this advice, you should consider the appropriateness of the advice, having regard to your own objectives, financial situations, and needs. If any private products are detailed on this podcast, you should obtain a product disclosure statement relating to the products and consider its contents before making any decisions. Where quoted, past performance is not indicative of future results.
Welcome to the Money Path Podcast with your hosts, Bob Iacchino and Mike Arnold, founders of Path Trading Partners. Oh boy, this episode is a doozy. The What and the Why is sponsored by MotiveWave. Go to pathtradingpartners.com and download your 14-day free trial. So let's join Bob and Mike with a casual conversation of news and the obvious.
It's all about the content.
In the words of Mark Zuckerberg, let the hacking begin.
Well, what's going on with Facebook?
That's fun.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Well, you don't even have a Facebook account, do you, Bob?
Nope.
Stafford, what's going on with Facebook? I mean, FTC is probing them for use of personal data. You have, I don't even, there's so much stuff been flying out about the Cambridge Analytica stuff. Zuckerberg's got to testify before the House committee.
So Zuckerberg was weak in his statement. I mean, that was just weak. Also, what a lot of people don't know, and I didn't either, is they already had an agreement with the government from, I believe, 2012 that basically they broke all of with this particular breach. And I guess it wasn't a hack, right? It was just kind of the improper use by an app developer, but apparently they knew about it, and apparently they were already responsible for most of the things that the regulators are complaining about. So it seems to me that Facebook is going to get hugely fined by the FTC for this particular event, let alone, they're talking about all the things that they're going to do to prevent this from happening in the future. But from what I hear, they were already supposed to have done literally 100% of what Zuckerberg said in his statement, based on the 2012 ruling. So, and this was the former head of the FTC that I was listening to an interview from, who kept going back. The interviewer kept saying, what about this? What about that? And he kept going, it's already in there. All of this is already in there. If I had time, I'd read it to you. It's already, they were supposed to have been doing this since 2012. So I think that's one of the things people are going to have to look for as they, decide to buy this dip, is they got probably a pretty large fine coming down the pike. Is it pike or pipe?
It could be both. It could be a pike pipe.
Mm.
A pike pipe.
Here's the thing with the fake book or the face bag or whatever you want to call it.
I like face bag.
Yeah, whatever I call it. Is the first thing is they thought they could swing an election because they did that with the Democratic election of Obama in 2012. But really, they can't swing an election because Donald Trump won. So it's all sour grapes. The internet is written in ink. So this is on the users, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, again, was this a shock that Facebook had your personal information?
This is their business
and
model.
that it was out that you.
It's what they do.
That's exactly it. I mean, this is not. People are like, I am shocked. All these guys with their jowls on TV, reprehensible behavior.
The craziest thing was there was this one senator, and she was on CNN, and she was talking late at night, and she said, you can't assume this is no longer about cat videos. Did she really say cat videos? This is no longer cat. This Facebook is not as harmless as cat. Did a senator really say this?
Oh my God, they're just clueless. I was talking to a guy about a month or two back, a guy who worked in the office here with me. I am in the office in the Chicago Board of Trade right now. Guy who worked here, and he was transferring to New York. And he had a product called Soylent. Now, I'm doing a little bit of an experiment here in this podcast. He had a product called Soylent, which was supposedly designed by these tech startup guys who didn't want to waste time eating. So it's supposed to be a perfect nutritional meal replacement. Tastes kind of like cereal milk. Like after you eat all the Captain Crunch, the milk that's left, it's kind of what it tastes like. Anyway, we were discussing it. I didn't Google it. I didn't look it up. I had no need to. He had boxes of it here. I was looking at the bottles. I go on my computer a half an hour later, ads for Soylent all over it. I didn't put it in my phone. I didn't put it in the computer. Now, I don't have Facebook. All I'm saying is they got you already. So don't be so upset. My phone microphone is on, or my computer microphone is on, or his is, and they recognized my voice, and they did voice data recognition, and they got that from TV, and they found me. I'm scared to death.
We should be, because the food is the people.
It's ridiculous.
You're sounding more conspiratorial than Stafford.
I'm not conspiratorial. I'm like experiencing things that are freaking me the F out. It's like, wow, what the? I mean, I got off Facebook because I just got tired of people knowing where I was and what I was doing. When I people would say things to me like, oh, so you went over to La Scarola for dinner last night, huh? I'm like, I didn't post anything. And he goes, I don't know, it said you were there. And I'm like, I'm getting off all this stuff. I hate it.
The good news is Jim Cameron has gotten the rights to the Terminator reverted to him, and he goes into production for Terminator 6 next month. And
That's awesome.
Exactly. He's mentioning Hawking and Elon Musk and general artificial intelligence. This is going to be and Linda Hamilton is coming back. It's going to be awesome. So we can see some good parody of this in film culture, we hope.
I don't know. I don't even mean to be conspiratorial. What's Elon doing lately?
What's Elon doing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, his pay package got approved by the shareholders.
Yes, it did.
Oh, good. I mean, here's what. So we've talked about this before, but it's now approved. It's more than $50 billion. He gets what is it? 12. He needs to hit 12 market capitalization milestones, 16 revenue or earnings before interest, EBITDA milestones, and 11 tranches require $50 billion in market value, 16 operational milestones, 8 focused on increasing revenue from $20 billion to $175 billion, another 8 targeting adjusted EBITDA milestones ranging from 1.5 to 14. Shareholders, but a couple big shareholders voted against it. It was interesting because most of it doesn't have to do anything with profitability. He increases revenue, but he doesn't have to increase profitability. He can literally, Tesla could go bankrupt, and if he lasted out to collect all his tranches over 10 years, he never has to really make money, and he will collect 75% of the pay package. If Tesla never makes money, even if it were to go bankrupt after he collected it, he would still walk away with 75% of $50 billion, and which is absurd to me. I mean, really, it's all about market cap. It's about what the stock's worth, and he's the Mr. Stock Pump Boy. So
yeah, I mean, I guess that's the part of his package that is probably going to be the most achievable, is when the stock goes up.
Yeah,
he will be on a tweeting storm.
CFRA analyst Ephraim Levy reinstated his sell rating on Tesla after the vote. Quote, we view the arrangement as a potential win-win for both shareholders and Musk, as the objectives are aligned to shareholder-friendly combination of aggressive market capitalization objectives as well as a series of operational targets. Quote, still, we question why Musk has to be incentivized so highly given his high equity interest in Tesla and risks to his personal reputation. We view Tesla shares as expensive at current valuations despite our forecast of 2019 profitability. Another proxy advisor, Glass Lewis Institutional Shareholder Services, recommended rejecting the proposal, citing high cost potential to dilute shares and other issues. They called the sheer upfront cost of the plan staggering and said it has serious potential to dilute the stock. Quote, the absolute cost of shareholders of this grant, if approved and earned, are substantial, but the amount of share capital used is even more eye-watering on a relative basis.
Eye-watering.
Yeah.
That's a great line.
It says that the plan provides, quote, pay opportunities over the next 10 years that dwarf those top executives at the largest and most profitable public companies. They also, this is from them, quote, 3/4 of the award may vest even if the company does not meet any of the commensurate adjusted EBITDA hurdles, the only profitability metric included in the plan. So again, Tesla could go broke and Elon gets richer.
Yeah, it's really funny because, we'll see how he's targeted as, executive pay packages, et cetera. I mean, is he going to be targeted like they've targeted, again, I'm sounding conspiratorial, but like they've targeted, oil industry executives and banking industry executives and stuff. I mean, this pay package being so based on what the stock does. I mean, a case can be made for somebody like Elon being more important to a company as a CEO than somebody else they could bring in for less money. That case can be made for Tesla, although I still...
Or that could actually make a company profitable and not incinerate cash at a very rapid rate.
Yeah, but then I could argue that the stock will be worth less. The stock will be worth less if it's profitable, but Elon's not there.
Yeah, well, the stock's going to be worth less at some point with Elon there.
Right?
I'm sorry. It is.
I mean, I think, listen, I agree with you, but I think that was said about Bezos and Amazon quite a bit. The difference is there's no way Tesla's not built to try and get in every commercial venture until you're profitable. That's how Amazon was built and structured. That's why he named it Amazon. He wanted the entire jungle, right? And nobody knew this when he was just selling books. He knew it. But with Tesla, what are you going to do? Solar panels?
Well, Amazon was based to be a cash machine. Even if it doesn't really clear a profit, it was all about cash flow. And the Model 3's been out like a couple months now. I mean, what? There are almost like 10,000 out there. Has it changed the world? No, no one cares.
No one cares. Yep.
Well, they already opened up reservations. People made reservations. They were supposed to deliver prior Tesla owners, internal customers first, and prior Tesla owners in the U.S., especially on the West Coast. And then they were going to roll out, to other places after they exhausted all those reservation holders. Well, they already opened it up to Canada this last week. I think they're having trouble selling, because it's not the $35,000 version. It's the $55,000 version, essentially. And they're running out of reservation holders who are willing to pony up $55,000 for, a car. That they were initially looking at. Maybe I have to spend $35,000 to $40,000. So right. I think that's also with production constraints. I don't think it's a problem. I think the problem is they can't actually offer the $35,000 car, which they said wouldn't. At this point, they're looking at early next year. So, yeah, and they're not ramping it up. So we'll just see. By the way, the Tesla stock is now back to its critical area, 305, and we're watching for that close on a weekly basis below 300.
Right.
So let's see if that triggers, if it sells off $5 today. We'll see. We'll see what happens. More and more people are jumping off the Tesla bandwagon, though. Even Goldman Sachs is like, we don't care if we underwrite any more of their crap. We're going to start calling stuff out on Tesla. So when Goldman abandons, because they generally will stick with something, but as long as it can be a cash cow to them because they're getting underwriting fees. But when they jump off that ship, it's sort of they're seeing something. They're like, maybe there's not going to be so many fees for us in the future, so maybe we'll start being honest about the
That's it in a nutshell, isn't it? I think we're done with that segment.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not
conspiratorial.
That's the way they work it. When there's no more fee, when they don't see a lot of fees for them, they're like, all right, let's tell the truth.
Right? Wow.
Oh, by the way, you mentioned Amazon.
I did.
Amazon vaults past Alphabet as the second most valuable public company.
Yeah, I saw that.
So we got Amazon, which had hit a high price of $1,617.54 last week off a bid. It's tanking. It's down to $1,535.
Right.
I'm actually watching to see what I could see it easily returned even about $1,450, where we got it's in the middle of the weekly rotation zone, and then it might be interesting again. But this sort of went vertical over since the beginning of the year.
Yeah, it really did.
They did not fall into the trap of turning into a political activist company. They have been extremely neutral and will sell anything to anyone.
Anything to anyone. Kind of at any price.
Yeah.
Really haven't cared about profit so much.
We have Dropbox boosting its IPO price $18 to $20 a share.
Good market conditions to do that.
They were looking for 16 to 18, and as of this morning, I heard they could be targeting 21 a share. So we will see.
Really good market to do that in.
Well, with all the inflows in the tech stocks.
Well, actually, so interestingly enough, tech was the most overweight position according to Bank of America Merrill Lynch prior to the sell-off. Right, prior to the 450-point NASDAQ move we saw. Was that the beginning of this week or the end of last week? It was the beginning of this week.
Yeah, we just had a huge move, like just yesterday. What was the percentage down yesterday was
down like 1.25% earlier in the week, and then yesterday I think it was down the same. No, yesterday it was over 2%, wasn't it?
NASDAQ was over 2% down.
Yeah, so at that point, prior to that sell-off, B of AML, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, said tech was the most overweight position. 38% of their clients were overweight tech, which was the highest. The second was short dollar. So long tech, 38%. Second, short dollar was 17%. That was the second highest overweight position. So more than double its nearest competitor. So the sell-offs, as you know, if you've listened to Mike and I for any period of time, the thing that makes markets go down very quickly is an excessive amount of longs dumping, not just people getting short or people going, I'm just going to sell this and get back later. It's an excessive amount of longs. If people are overweight something, like Mike's friends in the FANGs, you dump those things because you need the money. So tech may not be such an overweight position right now. But at the end of the day, if you're below 45 years of age, you have to get back into tech as a buy and hold. You just do. I mean, it's just the only one that has that sort of long-term growth potential that can make up for the fact that there is zero money in yields.
You summed it up perfectly.
I should have used that as my why, but it's not my why.
So, the world's largest crypto exchange, Binance? I don't know how to say that. Binance. What am I going to buy, Nancy?
I don't know.
Nancy.
I've got like $4 in Binance. It's not my favorite, that's for sure.
So Binance's vision is, quote, centralized and decentralized exchanges will coexist in the near future, complementing each other.
Oh, because they're centralized?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're doing a decentralized trading platform. They're going to develop the Binance chain.
By the way, I think that's one of the most comical things about the entire crypto space. And disclaimer, the three of us are crypto believers, but that, all of this decentralization being traded on centralized exchanges that don't necessarily use blockchain as their settlement process.
Well, we'll see, because we're going to have the Binance chain. The Binance chain is going to be big. It's going to be huge. We believe in that continually supporting the high-quality blockchain projects is the best way to develop this industry. This is a direct quote. We will continue to improve this part as we committed in our white paper. The new blockchain will also host Binance Coin, BNB, which will become a native coin on its own blockchain mainnet.
Did we ever report last few shows of what happened to Binance last month?
No.
So these exchanges have APIs, which means you can run third-party tools to come into those APIs and take a look at balances or even execute trades, right? And, of course, more legitimate exchanges, you feel a little bit more confident with their APIs, right? But Binance's APIs somehow got taken over by bots and put everybody into like these crap coins, and then they turned off all the APIs, and they had a major breach.
They had a problem.
They had a Facebook. Their APIs were
Wow.
hacked big time.
Wow.
So with this API hacking, did it put anybody in Diet Bitcoin, the brother of Pablo Escobar? Diet Bitcoin. The alternative to the CIA's Bitcoin scam. I love this one. So he's launched Diet Bitcoin. There's a 281-page book available to download as PDF entitled, quote, "The True Story by Roberto Escobar." This is quote from the short introduction. "I am the first person in the world, Roberto de Jesus Escobar Gaviria, to publicly come out and claim that Bitcoin was created by the American government, and I'm not going to be the last person to say this. This world is going to wake up. The world is going to see that this was created by them, and when they see it, it is too late. And when the CIA found out the world knows about this, the CIA is going to sell all of their coins, and they will destroy the value of Bitcoin. That's why I'm creating my own cryptocurrency called Diet Bitcoin, DDX." There you go.
That statement makes
I don't know what to say.
Alex Jones look like Walter Cronkite.
Oh boy! So
I truly don't know what to say.
Stafford, though, did the CIA create Bitcoin?
CIA, no. Skynet, yes.
Okay, so there, from our Mr. Conspiracy, CIA did not create Bitcoin. Final word. By the way, just saw this one. Swiss Foundation gets $30 million to start, quote, non-volatile cryptocurrency, which sort of takes the fun out of it, doesn't it?
How do you do that?
They've secured $30 million in investments. They're going to introduce Saga. This is all from the Financial Times, so pretty reputable reporting agency. They're going to create a, quote, complementary global currency subject to random identity checks and pegged to fiat currency. By the way, this is like the opposite of Monero. This is like the exact opposite. So here's some quotes. While blockchain technologies have gained growing acceptance, encrypted currencies have raised public policy concerns since they are anonymous, unbacked, and highly volatile. I share these concerns and see great value in Saga's vision to address them properly. Purchasing tokens, quote, will require owners to pass anti-money laundering checks and allow national authorities to check the identity of Saga holder when required. Quote, "We are not aiming for Saga to replace any national fiat currencies, but to be a complementary global currency. We are targeting people who are holding digital currencies and looking for safe harbors from the raging volatility."
Who would buy that? Why wouldn't you just buy the fiat currency, which has all of that and more?
Well, we'll see. We'll see, but it's sort of like, all right, you have to pass all these checks. I wonder who's going to be doing this. It's the anti-Monero.
Yeah, it really is. I mean,
it's the anti-Z coin, Zcash and everything else.
It kind of sounds like they were describing the U.S. dollar to me. I mean, maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, and then I have did anybody see that the infographic. It's in the show notes. I love that infographic. 25 cryptocurrencies divided by what's conventional privacy coins, settlement networks, overlay services, smart contracts. A great infographic.
Well, I do want to tell you that from a very popular cryptocurrency source, which I don't want to say on the show because I don't want to advertise them. I got their analysis today, and they are saying that the 275 billion market cap is support. There you go, Mikey.
Is support?
The market cap. The
market cap. Well, I forgot. I have not been looking at the market cap.
Yeah, which, by the way, for everybody out there that watches the market cap, it matches up almost exactly with the actual price.
Because it's... yes.
Yeah.
Back to my breaking news. Cash and carry, or the Fed's cash and carry.
Yeah.
The number of new cryptocurrencies is approaching farce levels.
Approaching?
We've now hit farce levels for cash and carry. Says it's at farce levels.
He can go farce himself.
Oh, it is, Gabe. It is. I mean, when you have diet Bitcoin now.
Diet Bitcoin is just funny.
Did he say farce in a government document or a speech?
Speech.
Darn.
It's not just farce, it's farce levels.
That's a meme.
Oh, that's just good stuff.
Dropbox said to be indicated to open at $28.60, IPO price to $21. Breaking news.
Breaking news.
Other breaking news. Quote, demand for American sperm is skyrocketing in Brazil.
That's interesting as well.
Racist.
Good to know I have another source to make money.
What else do we have? We had Fed stuff this week. Fed stuff. We need to talk about Fed stuff.
All right, Fed us away. You can go ahead and start.
I'm fed up with it. So they raised rates.
Yeah.
They also see a steeper path for rate increases in 2019 and 20. There's still signaled 2 more hikes in 2018. So that would be 3 total for 2018, 3 total for 2019, and 2 for 2020. Although all that can change again.
Yeah.
By the way, Moody's still sees Fed policymakers signaling 4 Fed hikes. I don't know what they're looking at, but we had Powell talking, who's got to learn to adjust his microphone better.
I didn't watch it live. I really thought that he would be much more hawkish, although I did say in several places, several news outlets, that I did not think they would come off the 3 rate hikes. I did not think that they would hint at 4, which he did not. He was hawkish 2019 and 2020, dovish everything else. Dovish 2018, basically. That's all he addressed. So it's definitely, it was definitely a surprise to the market in that sense, that people are expecting him to say things like, we're going to add a press conference to every meeting. He said he's carefully considering that. But he was very smart. He was very Janet Yellen-like. He said that they're considering adding a press conference to every meeting, but first they want to make sure that that's not viewed as hawkish by the markets. That's not an exact quote, I'm paraphrasing, but he says he didn't want the markets to assume that meant more rate hikes. So he says that first, gets it out there. And then later on, he can add the press conferences, and he'll be like, I told you so. Told you it wasn't more hawkish.
Yeah. He also said they're always going to be seeking 2% inflation, and no sense in the data that inflation is about to accelerate. And the only thing, again, dovish, more widespread trade actions may affect the outlook and may have them reassess. So that's again, we can do whatever we want whenever we want. Here's our path now, but, we're data dependent.
Also said that they are prepared to supply more monetary accommodation if it was needed. So there's your data dependent. And he said that the dot plots can move toward 2 rate hikes as well as toward 4. So he's extremely balanced, which surprised me because he's got this reputation for being just blunt and direct. And I didn't watch it, so I don't know. Maybe he just used fewer words and being very balanced.
So what's your overall take?
It was dovish 2018 because it was expected to be hawkish. So it's one of those situations where the market expects this number and the number comes out still bullish but lower. It acts as bearish. That's how this was. We saw yields fall. We saw the dollar fall. All the things you would expect to see had he been dovish. So you have to take it as dovish.
By the way, because we just referenced more rights of trade actions may affect the outlook, and we had Trump yesterday announcing 50 or 60? Could go
60 billion
in tariffs on China. What's your take on the 60 billion China tariff trade war that's going to sink everything?
So a couple of quick comments, and then I'll address it in detail in my why. But essentially, China, when this was rumored, not even rumored, it was stated that President Trump was going to announce the tariffs Thursday afternoon, and he did. China said, and I'm paraphrasing again, I don't want to ever quote anyone, that will be the first shot in a trade war, is essentially what they said. But then their reaction was muted. They reacted with about 5% retaliation versus the tariffs that were announced. And I think I might know why, not in detail, but in general. And I also think, again, none of this will be a political statement now or in my why. This was actually quite clever, the way it was done so far. But we'll see. There's a 60-day review period of this thing. So we'll see. But as of right now, it's been handled in a very clever way by both the U.S. and China. And I'll explain more in my why. I'm negative the whole idea of tariffs, but it is proven by several WTO cases that China abuses trade quite a bit with intellectual property theft and price fixing of their own. And it's nice to see them get stood up to. But it was done in a very clever way, which makes me believe, again, I'm a sound like a conspiracy guy, that this was all discussed and everybody knew what was going to happen before it happened. And I think we're going to get most of the stock market fall back. But I'll go into detail on my why.
By the way,
leaving you hanging.
You're leaving us hanging. Our double top is still in play. It has not.
Love that.
I mean, the double bottom is still in play. It
has not been stopped out.
No, it has not been stopped out. There's, we'll see, because a lot of people, there's also this double top. It does not fit our rules for this double top that was triggered yesterday on a daily basis in the S&P, but it does not fit our rules as a double top because the first profit target is in the wicks and the second one even exceeds the whole reversal move. So
yeah, so it's a low probability, bad risk reward double top.
Right.
Lower, I should say, lower probability.
Yes. But when it's nothing we would be trading because it does not fit our rules and we follow our rules.
Yes, we do.
But is there anything real quick? By the way, we were talking about chart patterns. We had that potential head and shoulders in crude, which is no longer. It did not trigger. It just rallied up. It looks like it's going to retest its the highs from a few weeks ago. Is this a sign or what? 6666.
Wow.
So we have 66, not just 666, we have 6666.
Wow.
What does that mean for the crude market, huh?
And crude, I mean, I keep saying it, and I keep saying it. We're in a seasonal bullish pattern, and that seasonal bullish pattern, when you look at a seasonal chart, which generally, from the source I get them from, is about 20 years of data. When you see such a steep move in the seasonality, it's because the seasonality is reliable, right? Otherwise, it would kind of average out and blend itself into a sideways move, right? But when you see, and the seasonality is extremely steep from February through June. So the seasonality, on top of these, some of the comments you get out of OPEC, and again, people think OPEC is a bunch of dummies, and they're not. They've been manipulating the price of crude oil through collusion, which again, neither one being illegal in that part of the world. So I'm not saying anything crazy with that. But they've been managing the price of crude oil through collusion for years. They're no dummies. And they know that the best time to run these kind of inventory reduction strategies is in that period of time of seasonality. And then on top of that, you got Venezuela's production reducing at an exponential rate as the government and the finances of that country collapse. And also on top of that, The most expensive crude and the easiest to sell is the light sweet crude, which Venezuela is not able to produce as much of because it's more expensive to produce. So even though they've lost about half their crude production, it's more like 70% from a revenue perspective, because the more expensive crude is what they're losing the majority of. They have plenty of heavy crude that's easier to get out of the ground, but it's not as in demand because it can't be refined and do as many things. So crude oil is I think the seasonality is probably going to end a little quicker than the June timeframe, simply because of how quickly U.S. production is starting to ramp up. But right now, Venezuela is losing about 30,000 to 40,000 more barrels a day annually than shale is increasing. And on top of that, you've got OPEC. They've got the supply down to 44 million barrels above the 5-year average. We were hundreds of barrels above the 5-year average 12 months ago. So the supply is dwindling, the inventories are dwindling, and unless shale ramps up quite higher, crude is going to reach that devil's number that Mike mentioned.
By the way, is there anything that you saw in international markets that you think's worth talking about, besides what we touched on with tariffs?
Bank of England was widely expected to raise rates, and they did not, but they voted 7-2. So now you've got a situation where you're seeing traders, kind of generally thinking that the Bank of England might be a little bit behind the curve. I don't know that I agree with that, but the pound spiked initially and then came off, and now it's kind of resuming its sort of up move. It's about 32 basis points right now, so a little bit more than 0.25%. The daily double top that I had on my British pound crude chart, the full target of that thing was right around, I don't have the levels on here unless I expand it. Let me expand it. Okay, it was right around 137.06 was the full target. The first target was 137.80. The full target, 137.06, so 130.70.6, and the low of that move was 130.71.9. So we'll call that reached in the crazy world of Forex. And it rallied up past that. We're now above 142, which is a pretty strong move. It's almost 100% retracement of the move from the high of 137.70. So we're going to exceed that, in my opinion. I think that's very notable, especially since you've got the commercial Brexit agreement done. The UK and the EU have agreed upon commercial Brexit terms. So that means that companies can begin to plan about what's going to happen with their headquarters in London and the UK and their expats that work in London, and all that stuff's going to be sorted. There's still some things to be sorted out, like the Irish border and things like that. But other than that, the Brexit deal is, in principle, done. Doesn't mean it can't fall apart, but in principle, it's done.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's a good transition to your why.
Today's edition of The What and the Why is brought to you by Motive Wave Software. Motive Wave Software is a well-established developer of easy-to-use, full-featured charting, analysis, and trading software built for the individual trader. Motive Wave offers the best charting tools used by the pros, such as Elliott Wave, Fibonacci, Gartley, Gann ratio analysis, but it's presented in a very easy-to-use way. Motive Wave has a product to fit any budget and any trading style, and one of the very best features, it's available on Windows and Mac. So go to pathtradingpartners.com right now to get your 14-day free trial, and then visit them at motivewave.com.
Yeah, my why is going back to the trade war thing. So forgive me if I repeat myself from earlier, but President announced, or the executive branch rather through spokespeople announced, that they were going to, Thursday afternoon, release details of tariffs they had planned to put on Chinese goods. The number came out to be about $60 billion. According to inside sources, the number that they figured out, that they were able to figure it out, that the U.S. had in damages from China's trade practices, which again, specifically, they're targeting intellectual property theft, which is a fact. So if anyone says China doesn't do that, you're not paying attention. And then some sort of price fixing that isn't necessarily proven that China does. Also steel dumping. We already know about the steel tariffs and aluminum tariffs. So Trump doubled that, came out with $60 billion in tariffs. And then today kind of immediately put out that the EU is exempt from the steel and aluminum tariffs that are about a month old. At least the announcement of it is a month old. So the EU is exempt, and he's encouraging places like Japan and Australia and some of our allies to get their cases in. It's highly probably he's going to exempt them as well. And what this does now is it shows you that he's got tariffs on China and global tariffs, of which he's giving U.S. allies quite a few exemptions, which is something that the three of us predicted in a podcast a couple of weeks ago, that the allies would probably have strategic exemptions, and that would be something that would happen. So yesterday we got a huge sell-off, over 2% in all three of the main indices, respectively 2% and change in all three of them. It's a very big sell-off, 720 points in the Dow. And it's my prediction that we get quite a bit of this back as it unfolds, because we did $60 billion in tariffs, announced $60 billion in tariffs. There's a 60-day review for like public discussion. Okay, so 60 days worth. So right now, equities are kind of hovering. They're not recovering, but they're hovering. They're kind of hovering at the level. And again, it's about almost 11 o'clock Central Time, so almost 12 o'clock Eastern Time. And we're a little bit lower, but not much. We're kind of at yesterday's closing level in the Dow. It's my feeling that the sell-off we got over the last 2 days, including a little bit of today, is not going to be maintained. We might test the old lows, let's say in the Dow that we got on like February 9th. That old low was 23,360 and change. We might test that. So that would be about another, 600 points down from where we are now. But then we'll slowly grind back, similar to the way we did off of that February 12th correction, or February 9th correction. And the reason I say that is because China responded with $3 billion in retaliatory tariffs. Now, prior to the announcement of the amount of the tariffs, China said that if the president did this, it would be the first shot in a trade war. And they are responding with $3 billion, 5% of the number. So if our first shot was a cannon, their first shot was a badminton fly or bird, whatever you call that thing. Over the net. Yeah, badminton birdie that hit Trump in the forehead. $3 billion is a very small amount compared to the total global trade between the U.S. and China, and obviously it's only 5% of the tariffs initiated by President Trump. So just given that, I feel like this is very much for show. I really do. And I think that China is very focused on this kind of thing not having a big macroeconomic effect, because they're very focused on domestic issues right now. And I got confirmation of this from a couple of friends of mine who have both worked or currently work at Chinese banks. They said China isn't looking at this right now. They don't want to make waves internationally because they're very focused on getting their own domestic economy and domestic projects done to get their GDP back to where they have more power internationally. They don't feel like they have a ton of power anywhere but militarily, of which they're currently not threatened. So the trade war that started could end up being like the 20 days war or the 18 days war. I just don't think it's going to affect the market for a very long period of time. Having said that, as traders, we're still going to wait for price action. But my why is that the tariffs currently in their current form are much ado about nothing.
All right, we shall see.
Yes, we shall.
We shall see. By the way, remember we talked about Snapchat and that double top?
We did.
That double top 3 days ago hit the first full profit target, 1580. Now it's returned to the daily rotation zone. We still have an additional target down at 1502.
Beautiful.
But worst case, it stops at break even now for that short. It was interesting. It triggered the stop production, came back to the prior breakdown level, which happens a lot. Did not even stop out close to stop production, and then rolled back over and hit the first target. That's in breaking news. Other breaking news. This is sort of ties in my what is breaking news is chart patterns. Blue Apron retesting the $2 mark. And in final breaking news, they just started trading. We're in about minute 7 or 8 of trading of Dropbox, ticker symbol DBX. Opened at 29, low of 28.80, high of 31, trading right now 30.29.
Wow.
So way above their IPO price of 21. You know, we'll have to see what they do, but we've got. I got it on my minute chart. my 1 minute chart is up here as I'm eyeing Dropbox shares. Tesla, by the way, we got to do a Tesla update before the end of the show because where are we trading right now? 302.15.
Getting pummeled.
We are getting close to that 300 mark where the buyers repeatedly step in. So let's see again. If we close below 300, we have triggered a massive weekly double top pattern. I'll reiterate it again. First target, 240 area. Second target, 220 area.
Be careful, all you I buy Tesla on margin people. Be careful.
On every dip, because it always goes up.
Be very careful. I mean, the chart is starting to look ridiculously bearish, and that's the longer term charts. That will bring about sellers of rallies, not buyers of dips, that will be fighting you with this thing. This is not like the period of time from, December through the highs of 389.61 that we saw in September, and that's December of 17 through September of 18. It's not like that. The chart is not set up like that. The chart is sideways and crossing lower on the longer term.
Yeah, and by the way, the stop reduction level, Dropbox new highs 31.20.
Let me ask you a quick question to add to your what, Mike, because I don't have a monthly here. We got a double cross on the weekly. Is there any sort of cross on the monthly to coincide with that?
Let me see. I was just going to tell you what the stop reduction is interesting because it's about 261, and the 200-week moving average is 253. So this can hit the stop reduction before it even hits the 200-week moving average. Let me get to a monthly chart.
If we get a double cross on the monthly, I'm predicting 187.
Monthly time interview. Let's go. How long have they been trading? About 10. Oh, this is interesting. I got to zoom in. This requires a keen eye. Oh, this is fascinating. This is absolutely fascinating. The
multi-time frame analysis, people. Yeah.
Monthly rotation zone, the bottom of it are 21 EMA. Right now, 299.17.
Wow.
I'm going to revise my thing. I want to close below 299.
Close below 299 triggers. Ooh, there's a clear path on the monthly, too.
Yes, there's an advanced clear path all the way through all the targets.
What does it go down to? Somewhere around 254 or something?
The official end of the advanced clear paths would be that 198.04, so essentially 200.
Wow. Which
was critical key support over, let's see, since February of 14. Mm-hmm. So it was initially resistance in 13, September and October, and then it was support all the way. It tests that support in 14, 15, 16 before this last run up. So 200 is very key support. So we could easily trigger this double top pattern, fulfill it, then also go test this 200 price point key support, which I think we will at some point because it'll return to those levels easily. I wonder how is their market cap going to go down if the stock price goes down, Bob? Should we be looking at a market cap chart?
It might. It might.
How's Elon going to get his bonus? What's he going to launch into space next to distract us?
He's an idiot.
Yeah, where's the semi-truck? I don't know. The SUV version of the 3 Series. Nobody cares.
For the record, I cannot really say he's an idiot. I can't, but he's an idiot.
Well, all right. I think that's all I have.
Yeah. Same here, guys. Thanks for taking the time again. Appreciate talking to you guys every week. So this is Bob Icino. I'm done.
And this is Mike Arnold. And Facebook says it's reviewing invite for Zuckerberg to testify.
There you go. They're reviewing it.
They're reviewing it. What are they going to say? No? That would probably not be a smart move. Oh, potential 1 minute chart, potential still early, but potential double top in Dropbox. 1 minute time frame. All right, breaking news, guys. Breaking news. Elon Musk has just deleted his SpaceX and Tesla Facebook pages. And his Instagram is questionable if he's going to keep it. So, and Zuckerberg and they're going back and forth. Elon Musk just tweeted out, "What's Facebook?" This whole thing's going back and forth. Remember, what was it, a couple years ago, Stafford, when Elon blow up the Facebook satellite that was supposed to go over Africa? Do you remember that?
Right. Yes.
Yeah, so now this is going back and forth. So you got two billionaires going back and forth with now Elon's going after Zuckerberg. And then you have all the class action lawsuit. We don't think we talked about that on the show, but last September, a class action lawsuit was filed against Tesla for it data mining its customers' data without their knowledge. So this is all quite hilarious. This is all going to be great. So watch for this. It's still Friday, late morning. This is going to be great over the weekend. Great entertainment.